Hello, everybody. This is Jimmy. You're reading with Jimmy. Today is a 10-minute quick take of an essay by Ralph Waldo Emerson called Self-Reliance, subtitled by Jimmy, Individualism, Integrity, and Your Inner Voice. Ready? Welcome, everybody. What if I told you that one of the boldest essays in American literature, truly a classic, argues that you, and only you, are the only authority that truly matters? Every institution, tradition, even religion must bow before the integrity of your own mind. Huh. Welcome to Reading with Jimmy's Quick Takes, where we're going to unpack the great works of literature in 10 minutes so that you can go on and read them with me deeply and think freely. And this quick take is about Ralph Waldo Emerson's Self-Reliance. It's an essay. It's a long essay, a manifesto for independent thinking, personal authenticity. You like that word today, don't you? And the moral risks of thinking for yourself or not thinking for yourself, which is basically a risk as well. It's all very, very dangerous if you believe it at all. So let's jump in, shall we? What's the story? Well, Emerson wrote this in 1841. It's one of the most influential essays ever written. It's considered the cornerstone of American individualism. There's a lot of that not going around these days if you look around. I'm serious. That's why you got to read this essay with me. He wrote it to a young nation still defining itself. Pardon me. Unlike a story with characters or a plot, this is an essay. Self-reliance is an argument spoken directly to us, the readers. It's passionate. He is. He uses language, frankly, from 1841 that we don't understand. And therefore, it makes it challenging, which is why I encourage you to read it with me. Because I not only read it, but I analyze it. What's the core message? He urges us to trust ourselves. This is one of the most influential essays that had a huge impact on Jimmy when he was a young man. And it can have an impact on you if you read it with me. Our intuition, our inner self of right and wrong. He writes, quote, "Nothing is at last sacred but the integrity of your own mind." End quote. Isn't that a wonderful quotation? Nothing is sacred but the integrity of your own mind. It sounds great until you think about it. So to him, every person contains a spark of divine truth. And that the tragedy of life, ladies and gentlemen, is that most people smother the spark with imagination, imitation, pardon me, and fear. It's kind of like you're born, you're curious about it. Did you ever watch a baby? I was watching a baby the other day. He's looking around at all the lights. He's amazed. It's all new to him. Do you do that? Do you go around looking at everything like you've never seen it before? But there's also a danger in that. So what's the deal? Emerson argues conformity is the enemy of genius. Society, he says, demands every person surrender independence for comfort. Really? Surrender your independence for comfort. That sounds like the Marine Corps, right? They drill that independent spirit right out of you. The true individual, like Moses, Socrates, or Jesus, dares to listen to the voice within. And when it contradicts the customs, the churches, the states, it doesn't matter what you believe is right. Is that true? Emerson's radical ideas raise hard questions. For example, if the integrity of your own mind is the only sacred law, what happens when your mind is wrong, when you're a little nuts? He never answers that. He simply insists that moral growth begins with the courage to stand alone. And he has a point. He has a point. Think about Galileo. They all thought he was a nutcase. They almost burned him at the stake for saying what he believed was true, which happened to be true, but nobody else believed it. Reading this essay with Jimmy, you're going to have to decide if Emerson proves it. So here's some of the themes. authenticity and integrity. True virtue isn't obeying social codes. It's living faithfully to what your conscience tells you now. That's a fine sentiment until you think about it, which Jimmy explains in his analysis. Nonconformity. Emerson warns that the virtue in most requests is conformity. It's the hobgoblin of little minds. He calls instead of bravery to resist. Whoso would be a man must be a nonconformist. Think about this. Because today there's a lot of swinging going on with nonconformity. Would you agree with that? Individualism as a sacred duty. The essay turns individuality into a moral act. To imitate another person is not just foolish, it's sinful. It denies the divine light within you. See what I mean about this guy? What language? Change and contradiction. Quote, a foolish consistence, I just said this, is a hobgoblin. That's how it's embedded in Jimmy's consciousness. Growth requires the freedom to change. We all hate change, don't we? To contradict your yesterday if today's truth is clearer. Albert Camus said, it's not the importance of the argument, but for it to make us think. Or do you still hold your cherished beliefs despite what people tell you? The divinity within. He claims, Emerson claims, that the same spirit that moved prophets and saints is in us, in all of us. So why does this essay from 1841 still matter? Really? Why should you read it? It's over 10,000 words. Well, he's actually talking about us, our era of social media, conformity, online outrage. Well, Jimmy, when I do social media, I don't conform with anybody. I'm an independent thinker. You think so? Have you read history? Have you realized there's nothing new under the sun? Or do you think that just because you post a BS kind of comment on social media that you're an individual? Independent thought is under pressure. It really is. Look around you. We're flooded with voices telling us what to believe, who to follow, what to fear. I know people who want to grow up to be influencers. What the heck is that? Don't you realize that when you speak, whatever you do, you're influencing someone? Emerson reminds us that our own good judgment is sacred if you have the courage to use it. Identity has become performance. Emerson saw long before Instagram, imitation corrodes the soul. Look at all the accounts on Instagram. Look at all the individuality going on. Who could sort it out? I remember, Jimmy, when it was television, you only had 3 channels. Now you got hundreds of channels. You can't even keep up with what's on television nowadays with the streaming and the da 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 da. He would say, stop curating yourself, create yourself. Growth means contradiction. In a world that punishes inconsistency, yes, it does. Emerson says that changing your mind, that's not a weakness. It's proof you're alive. You have a right to change your mind and you're still learning. Is that true? Do you believe in anything? Can anything you believe in be shaken? Huh. Real progress begins with conscience. He calls on us to speak what you think now in hard words. Well, Jimmy, I don't know what the hell I think. That's because you don't, probably. That's why you want to read the classics with me to see how other people lead their lives and how to lead your own. This essay is essential reading. That's why it's on my website. And that's how actually moral revolutions start. Not with the systems, but with the individuals who trust what they know to be right. Of course, we could debate what's right, what's wrong, and that's for another time. Finally, every age needs its heretics. We need somebody to hang, right? Now, hang them. Somebody to burn at the stake. Emerson's heroes are those who stand alone when the crowd demands obedience. To be great, he says, is to be misunderstood. Powerful words. You're going to walk away with a lot of ideas with this. So, calling all readers. That's Emerson's Self-Reliance in just 10 minutes. So don't stop here. Come on down and read it with me. You're already on the website or on my YouTube channel. Read it with Jimmy. 10,000 beautiful words, over 10,000, line by line. It's an hour and 34 minutes. It's intense. Yes, but it's divided up nicely. It's not an easy essay. Nothing is easy, ladies and gentlemen, about classical literature, but it's worth it. The harder you work, the luckier you get. That's a great saying I heard as a young man in going into business. So, readingwithjimmy.com, you can watch the full analysis on YouTube as well at Reading with Jimmy. And I'm going to leave you this question. Okay. If you can't trust society, like Emerson says, and you can't always trust history, like Emerson says, can you really trust yourself? These are profound questions, ladies and gentlemen, because remember, if you don't study the past, you're going to make the same mistakes of the past. That's why we have history, right? So let Jimmy know your thoughts. Jimmy at readingwithjimmy.com. Jimmy at readingwithjimmy.com. Thanks for taking 10 minutes, or maybe a little more, to read this. You can find me on YouTube. You're already on my website if you're reading this, or on YouTube. And for self-reliance, it's conveniently divided up into one reading plus two, an in-depth 2 hour analysis. Jesus, the analysis is as long as the reading, Jimmy. You bet. A lot to analyze. Thanks for coming by. Enjoy the day and rely on yourself. It's important. But don't forget to rely on other people. No, no man is an island, ladies and gentlemen.